I was sitting in the waiting room, clutching my resume like it could protect me. My palms were sweating, and my heart was racing so loud I could barely hear the receptionist call my name. This was my big chance. A job at an international company, something I'd dreamed of for years. I had prepared everything. My outfit, my answers. Everything except my English. When I walked into the room and saw the interviewer, a tall man with a kind smile, I tried to calm myself. But then he spoke. In perfect English. "Can you tell me a bit about yourself?" he asked. And I froze. Totally, completely frozen. Not a single word came out. My brain scrambled for phrases I had practiced, but nothing made sense. I opened my mouth and closed it again. The silence was deafening. I could feel the blood rushing to my face. The man waited gently, but I couldn't speak. Not in English. Not even one word. After what felt like a lifetime, I muttered, "I'm sorry. I don't speak well." The interview ended in 5 minutes. I walked out ashamed, defeated, and honestly angry at myself. I had been learning English for years. How could I fail this badly? That night I made a decision. I wasn't going to let that moment define me. I was going to learn how to express myself in English. Clearly, confidently, naturally, and fast. What happened after that changed the way I learn forever. And it all started with just 5 words I chose that same night. If you've ever felt stuck while learning English, like you're not improving fast enough, this story is for you. So stay with me. And if you're new here, don't forget to subscribe. I promise, this one might change how you study English forever. That night, I sat on my bed with my notebook open, replaying every second of the interview. The embarrassment, the silence, the way the interviewer's smile slowly faded. I didn't want to feel that helpless ever again. I wrote down 5 simple words. Not complicated vocabulary. Just the basics. Words I knew but hadn't truly learned. Words I had seen in books, heard in videos but never owned. I chose them because they were useful. Because I could imagine saying them in real conversations. The first word was experience. Then came strengths, teamwork, motivation, and learn. These were the words I should have used when the man asked, "Tell me about yourself." But I hadn't practiced speaking them out loud. I had only read them. That was my mistake. So I did something I had never done before. I talked to myself. Loud. Again and again. First it felt strange. Silly even. But I imagined being back in that office. I looked in the mirror and practiced how I would answer next time. I have experience in sales. My strengths are communication and patience. I enjoy teamwork and learning from others. The more I repeated them, the more confident I felt. I wasn't just learning words. I was learning how to use them. And then something clicked. It's not about how many words you know, it's about how well you can use the right ones. From that moment on, I changed everything about how I studied. My goal wasn't to memorize lists anymore. It was to make every new word mine, to live it, speak it, and feel it. And little by little, that changed my entire English. The next morning, I woke up with a new plan. I didn't just want to study English. I wanted to experience it. So I went outside, notebook in hand, and started noticing the world around me. Not in my native language, but in English. A little boy was running after a dog. I wrote, "The boy is running." A woman walked by, talking on the phone. She is speaking on the phone. And suddenly, the vocabulary I had learned felt alive. Every moment became a lesson. Every sentence was real. I wasn't stuck in grammar books anymore. I was living the language. Then I did something bold. I went to a cafe where I knew some of the staff spoke English. My hands were shaking as I ordered a coffee in English. Just a few words. "Can I have a coffee, please?" The barista smiled. "Of course," he said. That smile gave me more confidence than any app ever had. From that day forward, I stopped hiding. I spoke English wherever I could, even if it was just short phrases, even if I made mistakes. I realized something powerful. People don't care if your English is perfect, they care if you're trying. And the more I tried, the more I learned. Because now, English wasn't a subject I had to pass. It was a bridge. To people, to opportunities, to a version of myself I hadn't met yet. By the end of that week, I had learned over 50 new words. Not just in my head, but in my voice, in my daily life, and in my confidence. Looking back, I didn't realize I was building a method. But that week, as I walked, listened, spoke, and reflected, I naturally created a rhythm. A structure that made learning easier, faster, and much more powerful. I call it the see, say, use method. Simple, but it works. Step 1, see. First, I look for a new word in a real situation. Conversation, a sign, a podcast, even a movie. When I see the word being used naturally, it sticks in my mind. I don't just learn it. I connect it to a moment. Next, I say the word out loud. Over and over. I say it alone, I say it in phrases, I say it in the mirror. I even record my voice and listen. Why? Because hearing myself say it makes the word part of my identity. Becomes mine. Step 3, use. This is the real game changer. I find a way to use the word in real life. I write a short story using it. I comment on a YouTube video with it. I say it to someone. The goal is not just to know it, but to own it. One word at a time, I built a vocabulary I could trust. Soon, I wasn't afraid to speak anymore. Because the words I chose weren't just from a textbook. They were from my story, my voice, my life. That method gave me control. Gave me courage. And it's something you can start using right now, even today. You don't need hundreds of words. You just need a few used well. And soon everything changes. Months passed. My English had changed. But more importantly, I had changed. I was no longer afraid of making mistakes. I was excited to learn. Try. To speak. Then one day I got an email. It was from the same company where I had frozen during that first interview. They were opening a new position. And they invited me to apply again. My heart jumped. This time I didn't hesitate. I walked into the building with calm steps and clear thoughts. The same man greeted me. He smiled again just like before. But this time when he said, "Can you tell me a bit about yourself?" I didn't freeze. Smiled back. And I spoke. Not perfectly. Not with big words. But with confidence. With clarity. I told him about my experience, my passion for learning, how I had grown. I used simple sentences, and I made sure I really meant every word. At one point, I even laughed and said, "You probably don't remember, but I was here before." And I couldn't say a single word. He looked at me surprised. Then he laughed too. "I do remember," he said. "And I can see you've come a long way." The interview lasted 30 minutes. I left the building smiling. Not because I knew I would get the job, but because I knew I had already won. I had faced my fear. Had grown. I had become someone I was proud of. And all it took was one decision, one notebook, and 5 little words that started it all. I didn't become fluent overnight. I didn't learn every word in the dictionary. And honestly, I still make mistakes sometimes. But now I don't freeze. Now, when someone speaks to me in English, I listen with calm. I answer with confidence. Because I'm not chasing perfection anymore. I'm building connection. That's what I want for you. You don't need expensive courses or complicated grammar books to begin. You need courage, small notebook, and a reason. Choose 5 words today. Not big ones. Not fancy ones. Just words that matter to you. Then say them. Use them. Make them part of your life. You'll be amazed at what happens. I once believed I couldn't learn English well. But that belief wasn't true. It was just a story I told myself until I changed it. Now it's your turn. If this story made you feel something. If you've ever been afraid to speak. If you're ready to change how you learn English. One word at a time. Leave a comment with the first word you'll choose today. I'll be reading every one of them. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with someone who needs a little motivation. Your voice matters. Your words matter. And this is just the beginning.